Okay, I think that's a good cue for us to start. Welcome again, everyone. My name is Alex Reyes with the Now Planning Committee. We appreciate your attendance in Finding My Voice in a Complex Organization, presented by Dr. Fatima Alleyne, Ari Wolfe, Claire Marie Kooi, and Michael Mansfield. Please note that we'll be providing the slides and recording this session to everyone on the main Now Conference website after the conference has concluded. Please also note that in today's session, you'll be muted, but you can add any questions you have to the chat. I'll be collecting questions and moderating a Q&A with time at the end of the session. You can also message me directly if you wish for your question to remain anonymous. There's closed captioning available. You can click the CC box at the bottom of the screen to allow for subtitles, and we'll probably post that link in the chat as well, and we can get you set up as needed. With that, I'm happy to introduce you to our presenters. I'm going to kick it off to Dr. Fatima Alleyne, the Director of Community Engagement with the College of Engineering. Take it away, Fatima.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. As he mentioned, my name is Dr. Fatima Alleyne, and I'm one of the co-facilitators for the presentation today titled Finding My Voice in a Complex Organization, to create an inclusive environment, particularly to those who are visually impaired. We will announce the number for each slide. Slide 2. Joining me today is undergraduate academic advisor Michael Mansfield, student engagement programs manager Claire Marie Kooi, and administrative officer Ari Wolfe. Slide 3. So in today's session, we will accomplish the following goals. We will help you to find your voice, activate your power, define your career goals, identify your current skills and competencies, identify strategies to step into your desired reality. We will help you develop your cultural competencies, practice some skill building, and provide you with some additional resources. Now, to kick us off, my co-facilitator, Ari, will help us get started on our goals. Slide 4, please. Ari?
Thank you so much, Fatima. So for our first 2 session goals, what does it mean to find your voice and activate your power? Finding your voice is about getting a solid sense of yourself, what is important to you, and how you want to function and be perceived. Activating your power is putting that into action, holding yourself to an agreement to be the person you want to be. So one of the first things to consider is social location. Who and what and where you are in relation to others in the world. This comes from a number of factors, like where you were born and have lived, what socioeconomic class, political beliefs and affiliations, other groups you belong to or were influenced by, race, gender, ability, sexual orientation, religion, education, what kind of family you grew up in, who your main parental figures or mentors were, or who influenced you at different points in your life, and many other factors. And it contributes not only to your self-identity, both conscious and unconscious, but to how you perceive the world and filter the information you encounter. So these are often things we cannot know about another person until they've shared them. And because of this, we may make assumptions about others that are far from who and what they really are. So for example, my own social location is as a white 55-year-old middle-class bisexual cisgendered woman. I come from Jewish, Russian, Polish, and German ancestors who emigrated to the United States several generations ago, but I'm a practicing Episcopalian. I'm married, but spent some time as a single parent. I have a graduate degree, but I earned it after age 50. I've worked in several fields and lived in 5 states. So not all of these things obviously will factor into every moment of my life. And there are plenty more secondary identifiers or influences that have shaped me. But who I am and who I have been do figure into how I will understand things, interpret information, relate to others, and make decisions. They will also inform who or what I want to be and how that fits in with everyone else around me and how I communicate. The next element of this is time management. This is how you prioritize what is most important and manage various tasks and projects. In a work environment, this may involve keeping a list of tasks with A, B, and C priorities assigned to them. One of my first tasks each day that I carve out time for is looking at what I need to get done, how important each item is, and when I need to do it by. I use a Franklin Covey time management planner, but there are a lot of different systems out there. The important thing is to find one that works for you and then be sure you make time each day to use it. The third element I'll mention is a personal mission statement, a distilled sentence stating who you are and what is most important to you that acts as a guideline. This can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. The important thing is to spend some time figuring out what matters the most to you based on your personal beliefs, who you are and who you want to be. In her keynote address this morning, Aiko Bethia talked about reawakening things that matter most and not waiting for the latter third of your adult life before starting to live in better alignment with your principles. Beginning to give back more and strip away or clutter clear things that aren't working for you anymore. Be they tangible objects you own, relationships, or where and how you spend your time, such as at a job that maybe isn't fulfilling anymore. So creating a personal mission statement can be a vehicle for bringing that about. There are a lot of good reasons for getting started, and I've included a few links in the resource packet. So when you have time, take a look and find one that'll help you draft something. Putting your deepest values and priorities in writing can provide a reminder or a touchstone and a solid foundation for making decisions. Each time you get to a decision point, you can hold it up against your mission statement and say, would doing this bring me closer to or farther from who I see myself as? So now my co-facilitator, Fatima, will lead us in an exercise.
Hi. All right, slide 5. Now that Ari has helped us define what it means to find your voice and activate your power, we would like to engage you in a heartstorm activity. Now, we would like for you to all close your eyes and imagine your desired reality. What would you like your professional experience to be like 5 years from now? Today is June 3rd, 2026 at 10 a.m. It is a warm and sunny day, and you are at work. Work is whatever you define. Where are you? What are you wearing? What are you doing? What skills and competencies are you leveraging? Now, I ask if you can just open your eyes. Now that you've had a moment to imagine your desired reality, we would like for you to take a moment and open the document via the link in the chat. We ask that you download, this is the document. We ask that you download the document so that you can keep it as an official record. And in on the first page, we just want you to jot down in one sentence, transcribe your powerful goal. I'll give you a minute to make sure you can access the document. Now that you've had a time to access a document, can you just jot down your powerful goal? And underneath, I want you to write down what you saw. What do you see yourself doing? What was your workspace like? And I will transition to presentation mode after we engage in this exercise. How are we doing? So now, is everybody ready to proceed? Can I get a thumbs up? We good to go? Okay. So now that you've determined your desired reality, we would like for you to consider your current state. Close your eyes and consider. Today is June 3rd, 2021. It's approximately 10 a.m. It too is a warm and sunny day, and you are at work. What is your current typical day? If you are not at the Now conference, what would you be doing? What is your professional experience? What skills and competencies are you leveraging? Let's take a moment and let's reflect. Let's think what that experience would be like. Now that you've had an opportunity to imagine your current state, we would like for you to take a moment and in one sentence, using the same document on the first page, I want you to write in one sentence your experience. And underneath, write what you see, what you saw. What were you doing? What was your workspace like? Now, Michael will engage you in the next step. Michael?
Thank you, Fatima. So we're looking at this picture here. Our current state, where we find ourselves working today, what we would like to do with our day today. This is what we're doing. And then we have the desired reality, or this future potential, big goal, big dream, big thing that we could be thinking toward. And there is that river in between. And whether it's a river or an ocean or a chasm or a gigantic hurdle, that whatever you want to see that as, there's always something that stands between where we are and where we would like to be. And so this opportunity for us now is to then say, well, what would it take for me to get across this river? And we'd probably need some kind of a board or a plank or something that would allow us to walk across from where we are now, whether we think of it as a gap. Is that the huge gap that we see that's missing between where we are and where we'd like to be? But the gap represents this place where I don't know how to do it yet. I don't know what the steps would be to get across that board. What would I have to do first and then second and then third to walk across that plank? To do this, it's like pirates. How do I walk the plank? How do I get out there and try something new and get to a place where I can risk and say, what would be my next step? So let's go to slide 6. So we're going to call that gap space. We've identified that these possible 6 words here: teamwork, technology, analytics, leadership, communication, innovation. One of these 6 were identified as major things that people often think of as a huge gap that they need, and that they just don't have that experience yet. But you may know exactly what your gap is, and so that's why the blank is there. And so, for instance, I'm throwing in another example, just for instance, cultural competence. And so if whatever the gap is, where is that place that we don't think we've got the skill to make that next move? But let's go to this picture and say, all right, if I'm going to make this step, I have to name what this gap is. And so I'm going to suggest that it will be one of these 6 or the one that you make up. And that then we'll have to get very concrete about the steps that will be needed to take to walk over. And we're going to call that the skill. We could also call it a competency. What would that thing be needed next that you would have to do to take that step across and to move across the gap? So I'm going to give you an example. If I was lacking a skill and a gap that I felt my skills, I might say something like, and I said this to myself in my life, my gap is my communication style. So I used one of those 6 words. I lack confidence and I need to learn how to speak up in the moment and just share my idea as soon as I think of it. And so I had to then think what would be the skills that I would need to do that. And one of the answers for me was, I'm going to take an acting course. And so it's where I'm going to practice. I'm going to practice talking in front of people. But whatever the skill is, you have to get very clear. What's the gap? What's the first skill or the first step or the next thing I need to do to get clear about? Now, maybe you're thinking your gap is about a role change that you want to make. I want to move from advisor to manager. I want to move from student advisor 2 to student advisor 3. Okay, now we've got the gap. What's the challenge? Where's the gap going to come in? Well, it's probably going to be analytics in this case. So I'm going to say that you've got an analytics gap, and that we have to then think, what would be the first thing I need to do? What's the first skill I need? I'm going to have to go find job descriptions. I'm going to have to go just discern what are the things that are missing in my current state, so I know what things I can prepare for. Those will be my steps across to the next state. So we're going to invite you in groups of 3 to go out, and let's look at the shared link again, and we're going to page 2 this time. And you can see that on this, here's those 6 words again, teamwork, and the very same words that we were just working with: leadership, technology, communication, analytics, innovation. And so there's like a plank that goes across there. There's a big long plank that goes across, but there's only one column that has yellow in it, and it says the skill step needed. And so we're just going to focus today on that one part of your plank, that one step, that step on that one crack of that board right there, and to have the opportunity to choose one of these gaps. So you have to name or make up your 7th gap name, and then What is the step, the concrete actual step you need to take to move across and just do that? It would be a very important thing just to name that one thing. So this isn't a big discussion. This is one gap, one skill. And that's all we're going to be working at. We're going to give you each 3 minutes to talk about it and just try to nail that down a bit. But what we're trying to really do is raise the frequency, raise the energy around it, get it so that it's becoming something you can talk about, get it out of you and into your voice and out of your mouth so that it's somewhere else and it's living now. It's there, it's alive, it's got a frequency to it. There's some tone on it, there's some energy in it. So if you have extra time, encourage each other, help each other flesh that out. But we want everybody to speak and have a chance to really get to that place. Any questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think we're okay.
All right, let's jump out. We've got 3 minutes each. Probably come back in about 10 minutes. We'll have a chance to then take that apart a bit. Thank you.
Perfect. So I'm going to open those breakout rooms now.
Hey, I went into one of the rooms and then there was nobody in there. There was people in the, I don't know what happened.
Oh, no. Okay. I'll move you into.
Out again into the.
Yep. I'll assign you one. Give me 1 second.
So are we all conference team right now? Is there anyone else that needs to be added to a room?
I think Elsie and Paisley is the last name.
Yeah. Hi there.
Hi, so this is really strange, but we were in the breakout room, but we were hearing someone else's session.
Oh,
Yeah, so Andrea or Andrea we were also in the same room, but
Okay.
because I heard people talking and then I didn't hear anyone's mouth moving.
No worries. Let's get you moved to a different room. I think we
Yeah,
have
it
enough.
seems
We can
like there
create
was
one.
some overlap.
Yeah, so then we left the breakout room.
Yeah, no worries. We'll get you. Let's see. We have one open here. So let's get you moved over.
You
That's
might
so
want to pause the recording.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you, ladies. Nice meeting you.
This meeting is being recorded.
Big feedback.
Awesome. Welcome back. Hope the discussion went well. Claire Marie, let's go on to slide 7.
Thank you so much, Michael. So now that you've had time to reflect, we're going to engage in just one more activity just to share out what was discussed so you can see what people in other groups were saying. And to do this, we're going to use a Mentimeter. The prompt is, in 1 or 2 words, share the skills and competencies you identified as the ones to be developed to reach your desired future reality. The link and prompt will be put in the chat and you can access it directly from there. But if you're not able to view it in the chat, you can also go to mentee.com and enter the code on the screen. The competencies that were shared by Michael that you see in blue are on the screen for reference and also as a guiding point. If you have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat. But if not, we'll just give you a couple moments to answer and then we'll share the results on the screen. Great, and maybe we can show the word cloud. It's okay if you haven't finished yet. We'll share the word cloud to see what other people are saying. Awesome, leadership, communication, analytics. We see verbal, supervision, creative, technical skills, clear communication again. These are great. Thank you so much, everyone. Quick thinker, people skills, forethought. We have some more coming in. Innovation. Wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing, everyone. As you can see, there are many commonalities, but there's also many differences in the skills and competencies that you all identified. And with this reflection and knowledge, you're able to develop a plan and really utilize your network to gain the skills needed to get to where you want to be. I also challenge you to complete a gap analysis for the other competencies listed. Maybe you focused on communication today and you want to think about technology. So slide 8, please. If we could share it. I think it's not shared at the moment. Okay. Thank you so much, Fatima. So congratulations, you have now completed a professional skills gap analysis. We just hope that you enjoyed this activity and that you will utilize this strategy in the future. So now I'll pass it on to Ari. Slide 9, please.
So now the team is going to take 3 of the skills and competencies from the gap analysis that you just did and dive a little deeper into them. The first of these is communication, specifically looking at intent versus impact. Before communicating with anyone, it can be helpful to organize your thoughts and take a couple things into consideration. Think about what you want to say and then ask yourself, how can I frame it so that it is perceived in the way I intend? Going to illustrate this in just a moment. We have these 2 people on the right-hand side of the slide, and they're getting into a conversation. Before anyone speaks, we have to know that there are filters that act as a wall between them. These are made up of each person's social location, personal mission, and how they prioritize things, and other factors. If I'm going to communicate with another person, the starting point is what I intend to say. message that I actually mean for the other person to get. Then there is what I actually say, how I phrase it or put it, the words and inflection I use, and any accompanying body language, whether conscious or unconscious. This passes through the filters between us and comes out on the other side as what they hear. The actual words their ears pick up, or in the case of language not verbalized, what they receive from sign language, captions, or reading something I've written. But they may not understand it as I've stated or intended it. The impact, how they understand it, may not be what I intend. So this is where you get the idea of intent versus impact. Once the other person has processed what they think I've communicated, they will decide what they want to say to me in response, their intent. And yet, like what I originally put forth, what they intend to say and what they actually say may not be the same thing. And then there's how I hear and perceive that, and the cycle continues. If you've ever played a game of telephone as a child, you may recall how quickly and easily messages can get distorted and fall out of context. The next point to consider is the importance of prioritizing your work. I mentioned this earlier, and I think it bears repeating. In the work environment, this applies to any tasks, projects, and other assignments on your desk. What you need to get done in a given day, week, month, or other chunk of time. Or if you're in a supervisory role or a team environment, any items you've given to others to complete. I use an ABC system, as I've mentioned, where I give each item an A priority if it is both important and urgent, if it needs to be done today. A B priority if it's urgent but less important, so needs to get done but not as fast as an A. Or a C priority for things that I'd like to get done but could be put off to another day. Within each of these categories, I also number 1, 2, 3, and so forth in each letter category, so that my A1 gets done first, A2 second, etc. Ideally, it can help to put an approximate end time to each item as well, or to block it out on a daily calendar. This can be helpful not only for my existing work, but also if I'm approached by a supervisor, client, or coworker who wants me to add something. If I know what I have, how important or urgent each item is, and have an idea of how long it will take to do each thing, I will know up front whether I'll be able to take on something new and if I need to shift things around to do it. So what about when the answer is no? Sometimes someone will ask something of you and your answer will need to be no. But there are ways to do this from a place of personal empowerment. Many of us, especially in administrative or customer-facing positions, have been taught that there is an expectation in our jobs to always say yes, to accept an assignment, a task, an opinion, and when you can, you should. But it is equally important to understand your own limitations, the scope of the work you have on your desk, and your capacity for taking on something new. Many years ago, when I was being trained in customer service, our director said there's an old adage that the customer is always right. But that's not always true. The customer is not always right, but they are always the customer. In other words, we don't always have to agree, but we do need to understand whom we are there to serve, whether it's our supervisors or project stakeholders, internal or external clients, and we need to act accordingly and respectfully without compromising our own integrity. As I mentioned, it helps to know what's on your desk and how much you can reasonably achieve in an hour, a day, a week. If you are asked to take on a new task or to stop what you're doing and shift to something else, I don't recommend just saying no. In part because there are less confrontational ways to put things, but also because, as I learned through improvisational theater many years ago, saying no stops the conversation, and there isn't really anywhere you can go from there. So what you might do in that situation is ask them which of the things you are currently working with they'd like you to set aside in order to get the new thing done. That opens up a dialogue about your workload and gives them an opportunity to help you reprioritize. This is a good process to keep in mind if you're a supervisor too. If there's something you need to get done as soon as possible, Ask the person who reports to you what they have on their desk and what their prioritization is. And then you can help them to fit in what you need done with the rest of their tasks. This way, rather than confrontational or stressful, it becomes an opportunity for collaboration and better communication. And now Michael is going to engage you in another skill, looking at how cultural awareness can become cultural competence.
Thank you, Ari. So we used the example that I made up of the cultural competence as another possible board or plank, a skill set that you'd want to develop so that you could continue to do your work, but to feel much more strong and able to approach it and take it on. And so we're going to have you in a moment break into a group of 5 and to discuss what's the cultural awareness that changes if the person speaking to you below is older or younger than you. Just by hearing them or noticing their age, does it change the way you interact with them? Or if it's a person of another race or culture than you. These are obviously things that you can visually see. We haven't even begun to look at all the things that Ari mentioned earlier about, invisible things that we don't know about each other, but the visible ones, if we're on it, we're picking up on those cues. Or another example would be if another gender than you. And so I look at that picture and I saw buildings first, but I think what it is really people all reaching in from all different perspectives and all different understandings of things. And so whether we're looking at age or race and culture or gender, there's a huge amount of change that happens in us. Our feelings change, our understandings change. And as Ari was saying, the opportunities for us to reflect on, well, what is their experience? What have they done before? What's going on? All those things come in. So let's look at these 3 topics here. I'm going to have you, so I think there's about 60 of us. So when we break out into different groups, if you're in group 1 through 5, you're going to be A. Okay, and A is going to work with, what if a manager says this? A manager comes to you, would you have time to run these reports for me right now? But now we look back at those 3 things. They're older than you, they're younger than you, another race, another culture, another gender. What changes each time? So group A, you're going to be working on manager saying those things, but looking at how it changes with all 3 of those different factors. Group B, this is a colleague, someone who's a peer to you, sitting next to you. Haven't seen you much recently. Is everything going okay? And if they're older or younger than you, have another race or culture than you, another gender than you, is there a different response? We're just going to be thinking about all the factors that if you're becoming culturally aware, which would be hopefully to become culturally competent, you'd have many things that might be considered. Or C, group C, this is a mentor. So someone you've asked to be your support team who help me. But you go to them and they say, why didn't you let me know if you aren't prepared to meet today? So older or younger than you, another race or culture than you, another gender than you. Groups 1 through 5, you're going to do A. Groups 6 to 10, you're going to do B. Groups 11 to 15, probably be fewer of you, you'll be doing group C. Opportunity to actually take just one phrase here, just A, B, or C, and then approach it from 3 different ways because you're looking at it from all of these cultural awarenesses. And so it'll be 5 people. It'll be 5 minutes. That's all you got as a group. So maybe a minute and a half each, that one phrase, and you look at it from 3 perspectives, 3 different lenses. But what changes each time? And how does it impact the interaction? Just noticing who's in the room with you. This is all described again on page 3 of that chat link. And so if you have any questions, it's there again for you. Just go to page 3, right below where we were working before. Any questions? Great. Well, let's break out in groups of 5 and we'll come back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
I'm going to open all the breakout rooms now. So just make sure you click to actually join the room.
Great. Welcome back. Thank you for taking that chance to just try that voice on and hear it from many different perspectives. And we want to build from that last example of mentoring. And Claire Marie, on next slide, slide 11, I think, if we can talk a little more about mentoring now.
Thank you so much, Michael. So now we're going to take a look at a third competency, teamwork, and we're really going to focus on building your team and community through mentorship. I currently run mentorship programs for students, but mentorship is equally as important for professionals. An effective mentor can help you get a new job, promotion, various opportunities, and again, help you reach your desired reality. In fact, I wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for my own mentor who has really pushed me out of my comfort zone. I also wanted to share some statistics on mentorship. A 2019 survey of 3,000 people about professional mentor-mentee relationships found that 76% of people think mentors are important. However, only 37% of people currently have one. People with mentors are happier at their current jobs than those without. And only 14% of mentor relationships started by asking someone to be their mentor. 61% of those relationships develop naturally. And there are some things to consider when thinking about effective mentoring relationships, and we're going to highlight 4 of these things. So number 1, it's important to consider what the roles of mentors and mentees are. The mentor's role is to teach, guide, and help shape the professional growth and learning of the mentee and to serve as a positive role model. The mentee's role is to seek guidance and constructive feedback on their professional development and career goals. And mentorship is not hierarchical. It's really about sharing knowledge and having respect for each other. Both the mentor and mentee should be engaged, flexible, authentic, and dependable. Number 2, you have to find the right mentor. You have to know your goals, both short and long term. You engaged in the gap analysis earlier, so you can use that to develop your goals and seek out mentors that can help you gain the skills you need to get to where you want. Also, do your research and be aware of your existing network. Whose job would you like to have in the next 5 or 10 years? Is this person at your institution or outside your institution? You know, really write down the jobs and names of those people and reach out to learn more about their work. This can be an opportunity to build a mentoring relationship. And then also recognize the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. For example, mentors give advice, but they can't give you a new job, a raise, or a promotion. But sponsors can do that for you. They can be a boss or even a recruiter. Also, mentors can be in your life for the long term, while sponsors are oftentimes more short term. Number 3, voice your needs. And this is really about getting the most out of your mentoring relationship. So mention your goals at the beginning of the relationship, and your mentor can help you stay on track at each meeting. Meet consistently and establish ground rules right from the beginning. So figure out how often, how long, how you want to meet, and really stick to it. Set an agenda as the mentee. So before each meeting, send your mentor an agenda, an article you may want to read, or a new project you've worked on and want feedback on, and be truly open to that feedback, whether it's positive or constructive. Also take notes as you're meeting so that you can follow up via email, and that can help your mentor stay on track and know what to focus on with you over the course of your relationship. And then finally, consider having multiple mentors. So no one mentor can help you achieve all of your goals. And number 4, pay it forward. So mentor others who are coming up after you. It's like the ripple effect. You mentor a couple of people and they will mentor a couple of people, and this can really create generational change. Slide 12, please. So now we're going to talk about some strategies you can employ for professional development. Join professional organizations. Look for opportunities to gain experience working in cross-cultural settings. And also volunteer to lead a project or take on a role that's related to your area of expertise where you might have less experience. Slide 13, please. And lastly, we've gathered some resources that touch on many of the topics we discussed today. And this includes materials on the gap analysis, communication styles, mentorship, and more. And the link should be in the chat, but they're also on page 4 of the worksheet document. Slide 14, please.
All right, we would like to thank you all, and we would like to thank you for being here with us today. We know it's later in the day. We want to thank all the artists of the Noun Project who contributed the artwork that we shared today, and then we want to also thank the Now Conference organizers. And now we want to open up the floor to questions. Do we have any questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat. However, I did have a brief hiccup in my internet. So if anyone had any questions in the last like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, please repost them. I'll keep an eye out. But in the meantime, we really appreciate your time, Fatima, Ari, Claire, and Michael for this great presentation. Everyone, please remember to complete this session evaluation that I will add to the chat now. This has been a big treat. We'll also be following up, I believe, with the session evaluations for you to complete. They're very important for our future offerings. We'll give you a little bit more time. Next up at 3:15, there's an optional break with a Tahitian Polynesian dance activity. You can access that in the main conference room on the program website. I believe you can access that venue from your BCAL invite. And then after the break, be sure to tune in because you'll want to be ready for the afternoon keynote with Janet Napolitano. Thank you again, all. And I still don't see any questions, but we'll be on for a few more minutes, and best of success.
Thank you, Alex and Marissa, too.
Yes, thank you.
Looks like we have a question from Michael Thompson. What if you have biases that you've identified? How would you address them? Great question.
Fatima, do you want to stop the share so we can see people?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I can. All right. Anyone want to start or? So, Michael, I can share one bias that I realized. So I'm a mother of 4. I have 3 young men and a daughter, and a woman that I've raised and I'm raising. And one thing that I realized was that when I walked, this was a couple years ago, when I walked down the street, I used to respond in a particular way when I saw a group of young Black men. And so I realized that I would put my purse on the other side. So the things that you see on TV and you see that people do, and I had to, and so I had to stop myself and say, wait, why did you feel the need to respond that way? Would you have responded if those were your children? Because I have a 12 or 14 and 17-year-old, 12, 14, 17-year-old boys. If they were of a different ethnicity, would you have responded that way? So I started asking myself, so the same process we engaged you all in is the same process, the same work I had to do for myself and with myself. And I realized that I did not respond in the same way when I saw a bunch of white young men standing on a corner, because I had those experiences. And so I had to change my behaviors, and I had to think, okay, so the next time you see them, what are you going to do? And I had to, and the next time I saw, and this is just walking around in Berkeley. And what I did was I stopped myself from processing the information in the way that I'm accustomed to. And I also modified what I allowed into my psyche. Because if I allow negative depictions of African-American young men into my psyche, that will come out. So what you put in goes out. And so I had to retrain myself on why are you responding that way? Would you respond that way if it was if they were a different ethnicity, if they were older, if they were all these same questions that we engage you in? And then I had to change my behavior, and it wasn't instantaneous, right? You're developing new skills. So even if you're not successful the first time, you try again the second time, you try again the third time. And then eventually it becomes natural where you don't respond that way. So that is one bias that I know that I've carried with me for a long time. And I had to check my own behavior, particularly in doing, so I am a DEI educator, professional. So I have to constantly check my bias as I engage in this work.
We're getting tons of thank yous in the chat, just so everyone knows. This is really, really great motivational work that you guys have done for us. So thank you.
And I would just also mention, you know, Claire mentioned a lot about your mentor, right? And leverage and lean on your mentor to have honest conversations like this. Sometimes we're afraid to make mistakes. And it's because we live in a culture that does not celebrate failures as a learning opportunity. That's how we learn, through our failures more than our successes. As an engineer, my PhD is in engineering. I learned a lot from my failures more than my successes, because you don't really know what you needed to tweak or what needs to be improved when you're so successful. And so I think we need to allow ourselves some grace. And I say grace when people are genuinely committed to doing the work. I'm not talking about people that's a microaggression, get over it. I'm talking about giving ourselves grace as we're learning this new behavior, and being around people that will help you to develop and hone these new skills as you're engaging in the process. People that can be honest with you, like Claire said, because that's what you want. I don't need to be around people that will co-sign everything I say. I could do that myself. Be around people that will give you a different perspective. We have worked with each other for the last couple of years. And so we can challenge each other in our thought process to help us to see a different perspective. So that is what and that's one of the skills that leaders have, because leaders can receive information from different perspectives and utilize that for the greater good, because we're talking about big vision, big picture. And that's that's the whole purpose of this, and part of the presentation was to think about, how do you gain those leadership skills, whether you're a leader by title or by your experience and how you navigate the world. How do we integrate some cultural competencies and other skills to be the leader that we know that you all can be? So I see there's some resources. Yes, I've enrolled in a lot of the UC Learning Center classes, lots of them, that many people in those classes. And that is a great way to learn. And I even though I ideate and implement DEI, workshops and modules, I still attend those because they're opportunities for me to learn. Ari, Michael, Claire, we're experts, and we always have opportunities to learn.
Michael, I was just thinking that how important your question is in light of the United States at this moment of history. You know, here we've identified a bias that the country has, you know, and whether it's with women or with the Black community, with gay people, whatever. Here we're at this moment where we've identified it, but how do we address it? And that is the challenge. That is the challenge, is to say, what are the little incremental things that you'll do to shift so that you can then practice every day and ask people to talk about it with you, as Fatima just said. how do we get better at that? So your question is like the question to me.
I would also add that I've found a lot of information online. The internet, while it can be, as someone described it to me, kind of a sewage dump that drops things into your living room, it can also really be a huge wealth of information if you're willing to sift through it. I have a website where I've put together a bunch of resources, both for LGBTQ folks and for anti-racism. And I, as Fatima said, I teach workshops as well for that. But more importantly, I look for what's out there. There's this great course called, oh my gosh, it's Dr. Moore is the person who did it, and it's called the 21-Day Racial Equity Challenge. And I highly recommend it because it's this fantastic, it leads you through just this wealth of information, but you're on your own every day to either watch or read or listen or act and do something. We make a commitment to doing one thing each day to educate yourself more or to deal with the stuff. And I found that really helpful amongst other things, but that was probably my first go-to.
Any other questions? We gave really long answers. Okay.
I believe we are at
Oh, we're at time. Yes, 3:15.
Yeah, so this was great. We're right on time, got some questions in. We really appreciate, again, everyone who stayed behind, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Michael, Laura, Lynette.